King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
We started last month with Universal Music Group started to take some of their songs off of TikTok. Now they're just going to clean house. And meanwhile, Universal Music is underscoring what is really happening to them. There's so much more that's going on where they might be making some good money off of their major legacy artists. But they are shooting themselves in the foot going into this feud, this temper tantrum with TikTok. It's just what it is. And we're going to talk about that again tonight. It's just going to keep happening. And if I were a radio person, I would be saying to myself, man, I would be getting Universal Music Group all up in bed with them and saying, listen, we're going to continue to push your artists. And, you don't need TikTok. You can come back to us. Hey, you want to again have Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny, and, The Weeknd, and SZA's got a new album, and, Drake's going to probably put some new music out soon. Billie Eilish has a new album coming out soon. Like, come on. Are you really just going to go ahead and let by the wayside say, you don't have any place for your artists to promote or to push new music on TikTok? You want to use Instagram? Not necessarily too much thought of process. Well, go back to YouTube videos? Maybe not so much of that either. People still are going to have their chance to catch music as it should. So we'll lure them into another source. Take them back to a media that has always worked very effectively for new music. Go back to radio. I mean, if radio was going to be smart, I would say to do that. And if I were iHeartRadio and Odyssey and all these other companies, I would be all over the fact that we would be exclusively putting out certain artists that TikTok is not going to go and pay royalties for. And the one thing is for radio is that this is where they lose out on the battle. We only get to this feud because radio dropped the ball. TikTok didn't have to be the end-all, be-all for how music now is being consumed, for how music is being promoted, for how music is being pushed out there to the masses, and how the music gets charted, and how new artists come from the woodwork. How many new artists are we seeing now coming from The Voice, or American Idol, or pick another, X Factor? Is that still around? America's Got Talent, right? No, none of those really effectively work. Not in the way they should. And as long as that's going on, TikTok is the place to go. And I'll tell you, there's so many different artists I see right now with new music, and they make a big difference. I mean, one thing that's becoming much more popular, I've seen a lot of, is that when certain artists are about to push out music, and they give you a snippet of it, a good 30 seconds, and you're just holding on. You're just waiting to listen to it. And some artists have really learned on this. Let me tell you, when you look at some of the artists that have come out and, get a little bit of a teaser of a song that's coming out, Dua Lipa's done a great job of it to push Houdini and Training Season and her album coming out. I just saw, Tate McRae did a great job of that to push out her album and push out songs like Greedy and X's and others like that. And, those type of campaigns work. And there are other artists that might come from the woodwork that we'll learn about. They'll be like, all of a sudden, wow, we're getting into it. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at new music from the dance artists that we're getting a tease of it. And I'm like, okay, let's drop the record already. Let's drop it in streaming. And the anticipation is being built up. Like currently right now, there are certain songs that come through. Charlie XCX has a new song called Von Dutch. It's a banger of an EDM song. Excellent song. Go in here, and I've already heard it a few times, and I'm like, it just digs. And I know in the UK that song's going to chart. It will not probably be this weekend, but probably by the midweek chart. Over the weekend, official charts will have this song listed. I really believe that song is going to hit really big. For Charlie XX coming out of the Barbie soundtrack, having Speed Drive, that's good for her. Or what's that the name of the song? If I got it wrong, excuse me, forgive me. But either which way, there's that. There's a song from Isabel La Rosa. And I remember there's some other songs I've heard from her that I've also picked up on. She now has a song called Favorite. And it's done in a reggaeton beat. And it's on fire. And I'm waiting for that song to come out. And there are some others that have competed in other shows, and we're hearing about them, and they're all of a sudden coming across, and it's good stuff. TikTok has become new music discovery, and Universal Music doesn't want to play with us anymore. But meanwhile, this big behemoth, this Goliath of a music company that owns all these different labels, they want to go ahead and play along with us and say, well, we're not going to play this game anymore. We're not going to let TikTok go and take our royalties. Well, why don't you get your money from radio? Running the radio doesn't pay you enough. Okay. You could have gone after radio for the royalties. No, but you're going to have to go TikTok. TikTok actually is a better promotional source. If you want to make money off your artists and get the ones that actually play the full songs, go after radio. And if those big fat companies with their debt and their private equity companies and their hedge funds putting money behind it, if they can't fork out the bills, then bankrupt them, okay? Bankrupt in the Chapter 11, not even more so where they can't even pay their interest notes, okay? Get them out of there. Make them sell their stations off. We're going to talk about a story about a group of stations in Canada being sold off to smaller stations, which is a great story, and I want to bring that up a little bit later on. And honestly, make that happen. An implosion of radio stations so that other radio owners get a chance to crack at it. And they can play music radio, and they can be the ones that will push above and beyond and get music out there for everyone. And maybe know how to program a radio station the way it should, with not so many damn commercials. And if you're going to have commercials, have them blend in with the format. I don't think it's an antiquated idea. I think you can still make money on it. I might be in the minority on this, but I still feel like there's a choice of that. But people don't want to do that. People feel like that can't happen anymore. Well, I disagree. I vehemently disagree on that. What I also can't stand are damn websites that can help themselves to just drop ridiculous paywalls so we can't read your stories. Theinformation.com, you guys suck. You understand that? You suck. You can't give me any way for me to go and read a story without paying $400 a year. You know, I laugh in your face that you think we're going to get anyone to go out there and spend $34 some odd dollars for a publication when I might only want to see maybe one or two articles. Are you out of your mind? I mean, I know you think your journalists need to be paid, and then also your executives need to go and make some big money out of here. But you know what? This is one thing where a website like that, I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of falls by the wayside at some point. That's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. So there's a lot of stories being talked about with Universal Music and TikTok. It just continues to get bigger. This has been a groundswell going across the board. The first story I want to take across the board that really does get this here is the Wall Street Journal, which is notoriously bad for paywalls, right? Of course you are. But I'll find my way around it anyway because it just works like that. But now, back to them. Wall Street Journal basically called it right. The nuclear option is being pushed on TikTok. So, TikTok is not going to lose this battle. Universal Music is making a mistake. The gamble's not going to work. I believe that. They could try all they want. You know, you are putting some of your artists in a bad spot anyway by doing this. Do you understand? Because think about it like this. What happens as a result of you taking these artists off of TikTok and one of the most viral, important, significant websites there are, or social media sites there are? And look at your artists you have right now. Taylor Swift. You know, the good thing for her is that her Eras tour's out there and people will still go ahead and putting out videos for her because there's just, the Swifties will be there till no matter what, unless she moved to a different platform or unless she moved over to radio. Remember, radio, when BTS was getting themselves going on until they broke up, BTS was getting a lot of help from radio. And fans will follow wherever a group is. If there's a big fandom for it, they'll go over to it. Remember what they did with Beyonce? We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Look at what they did to infiltrate radio stations to play her new country music, right? Same thing. And Spanish stations, different story. Bad Bunny, hey, you know, you can get whatever music you got out there, and eventually they're going to have to play his records. They can't have a choice. The Weeknd, always a push towards radio. SZA has got a new album, again, And she's been out there. And her album came out, and she got a lot of songs being pushed. So this has been pushed to the moon right now for radio for a while. And that's helped out a lot. Drake, always been helped by radio for years. Billie Eilish, same thing. Harry Styles, same thing. Ariana Grande, now with a new album coming up, you know she's going to need radio. She's going to push it out there. And the fact that, had Yes and not been quelled like it was, and now Mariah Carey has the remix on it, and you can't even get that song out there, and can't even break the top 10, hey, tell me how much of that has to do with the fact that there are not many challenges anymore. No more dancing to her song, right? That's the part that's going on here. Like, okay, everything changes, and there's some mistakes to be made. Justin Bieber might not have anything out there, but still, his music will not get referenced to going forward. And that's the other thing. A lot of these artists are not going to get referred to. Now, part of it is that these are artists that I'm actually mentioning right now that easily have a gateway into radio. Okay? Weeknd, Alicia Keys, Drake, Billie Eilish, Kendrick Lamar, Rosalia, Harry Styles, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Adele, Elton John, J Balvin, Coldplay, right? Post Malone. Come on. Like all these artists here, they can go to radio all they want and also not make that much money as a result of what they're doing anyway. Let's just make that point as well, too. But there's a lot more artists on this list we could talk about that are on here that we could really make a point across and say, hey, man, there's something wrong here. Like they got a lot of people on this list, but that's not all of them. And people can just say, oh, well, you know what? We don't have to worry about them being here. We can just go ahead and move on and do our own thing. Because I could look at a long, ridiculous list. Baby Keem's got a record right now with Fred again, and that's been pretty some ways. But how much help is getting help from not having TikTok out there to go and promote? Because they're being pushed back. They can't be pushed out there anymore. Looking through the records here, like we sent Billie Eilish. Moving along, let's see here. I could bring up, we're moving some names. I'm trying to move some names that are more current and more readable. BT, I guess, Burna Boy, right? That's also, think about it. These are certain artists you're not going to see on TikTok. You're not going to hear them on TikTok. So, first of all, probably a ban on them to even be on the app anyway for themselves, let alone being able to have their music promoted or pushed out there in the first place. Chris Brown is affected by this. It's not good for them at churches. Nope. She's out of it. Coi Leray, think about it. And some of these stars you see here, okay, are the ones you're wondering, are they going to be do they really need a lot of help from TikTok because of what they're doing? Because a lot of other artists are going to make their way up the charts, and you're going to see the difference on there. And hell, I was listening to the guy, Mark from Spectrum Pulse and Billboard Breakdown. He really did make a good case about the fact of the Universal Music Group and what they did right now by not applying TikTok to their marketing strategy because of this temper tantrum. They're hurting themselves in the process. The Baby's in this list. Dave Matthews Band's on this list, right? I think these are not all these artists are like, really big right now in terms of what their music is. Like Demi Lovato's part of this list. That's not good. Think of like what music we can't hear from them anyway if we want to. And if the music gets taken away altogether. Dire Straits is on this list. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince is on this list. And nothing with DMX, Drake. Oof. Moving along here, Ellie Duhay is also affected. Elton John we mentioned. Eminem is mentioned here. He's affected. If I look at Fatboy Slim's affected by this. Florence and the Machine's affected by this. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Franz Ferdinand, Fred again, Future. There's so many names here. Gail, have we heard anything from Gail lately? Well, she's not going to have much help because TikTok's taking all their music off. And then I don't know how much they're going to be allowed to be able to do anything of themselves on music there in the first place. Her is on this list of artists and writers. Harry Styles, we mentioned. Herb Alpert's not even on this list. Was also affected on this. Ice Spice. There's a lot. I'm just in the eyes right now. We can move along here. Anything from Isaac Hayes. J. Cole. Ja Rule. Move along here. Janis Joplin's affected. Jason Derulo, who has been like King Dingling on TikTok. And how many songs did he get pushed out there as a result of TikTok and what it was done, especially in 2020? Jenny Aiko's affected. Anything for Jimmy Jim and Terry Lewis could also be, is probably affected as well. Jeez. Johnny Taylor, Jonas Blue, Joy Division. There's a lot here. Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber. More on the list here. Keith Urban, Kendrick Lamar, Carrie Hilson. Well, she hasn't done anything in a while, but like, you know, you hear the song The Way I Are. I don't know if that's being affected or not, but like, if all the songs get pushed off and what happens anyway after that. Leonard Bernstein, Leon Russell. I don't know exactly what happens with some of these artists and what their music, you know, if they're not allowed to be played, you can still hear covers. You can still hear other things, but I'm wondering if those songs are going to be pushed out. And then every time their songs are up there, they have to be taken out anyway because of the copyright. Linkin Park's on this list. Lisa Stansfield's on this list. Now, I've seen some of these artists still, but what I'm not seeing is I haven't seen some of their performances being taken down yet. So I don't know if those are going to get taken down as a result. If that's going to continue to be that purge that's going to go along here. Leonard Skinner's on that list. Moving along, Maren Morris is on that list. Mariah Carey's on this list. Maroon 5, Martin Garrix, Mary J. Blige, Megan Thee Stallion's on this list. It's a lot. Metro Boomin, Miguel, who just got his renaissance for his record Sure Thing from last year. I mean, there's so much here I could go through. Mumford & Sons, Nas, Neil Diamond, Nelly, New Order, Niall Horan, Nicki Minaj. Moving along here, Oliver Heldens. Let's see here. I'm just going through names because I just want to make sure the magnitude of what music you might not hear anymore on that app as a result of this. Pearl Jam, Peggy Lee, Peter Cetera. So does that mean affecting things? Or how about Panah? How about Poison? Post Malone, Prince, Pulp, R.E.M., Red Hot Chili Peppers, Renee Rapp is in this list. Rick Ocasek, not Rick Ocasek, Ocasek. Let's see. Oh, anything from Darkchild, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, Roxy Music, Roxette. There's so much here. Rufus and Shaka Khan, Run DMC, Sabrina Carpenter, Sage Gemini, Sam Hunt, Schoolboy Q, Scorpions, Seal, Sex Pistols, Shania Twain, Shawn Mendes, Sagala. There's a lot in this list. Simple Minds, Skylar Grey, Squeeze. There's a lot of people on my playlist that would be like if I lost all these artists on my playlist, that would really suck. Steely Dan's in this list. Steppenwolf, Steve Lacy, Sting, Stone Roses, Styx, Sublime, SZA, Taylor Swift, All American Rejects, Bangles, Bar-Kays, Carpenters, Cars, Clash, Cure, Flaming Lips, Go-Go's, House Martins, Jam, Killers, Mamas and Papas, Neville Brothers, Roots, what are there? Staple Singers, Stranglers, Weekend, The Weeknd, Thin Lizzy, Thompson Twins, going more, Timmy Trumpet, Tom Petty the Heartbreakers, Tom Waits, T-Pain, Twisted Sister, UB40. Wow, this is just sucks right here, man. There's also film catalogs as well in this list too. Wu-Tang Clan's in this list. So much here. Zed, Tupac, Three Doors Down, Black, 808 State, among others. Like, there's a lot of names that most likely we're no longer going to see as a result of all this. The implications are huge. This is why I think this is such an important story. It's not our fault that TikTok became such a major disruptor. I'm glad they did. Unfortunately, I wish I would have gotten onto it sooner. But it's okay. We all caught on in the 2020s, right? During pandemic, we all got caught up on TikTok, and it became the master that they are right now. What are you going to do about it? I mean, it's just what it is. Now, Universal's already starting to do things with layoffs. This is one of the things that their own big problem that they have right now. They're trying to save $270 million a year with organizational redesign and layoffs. And the savings would be by the end of 2026, 250 million euros or $271 million. So that was one thing that was being mentioned. This was yesterday, as I record, about 24 hours ago. They were going to achieve efficiencies in the target cost areas, strengthening the label's capabilities to deepen artist and fan connections. There would be a general headcount reduction, and then a combination of further ex-U.S. headcount reduction or other operational efficiencies. Yeah, they're going to downsize. Meanwhile, annual revenue after a strong fourth quarter crossed $12 billion. They're doing just fine on the money, but it's enough for them to say, oh, we're still going to go ahead and drop off. We're going to go ahead and start making layoffs. And they did. And they've already started. Now, into the story about TikTok and Universal, where they are right now. So, for instance, there was a song that was going to be pushed out for the Super Bowl by Gwen Stefani, and, no doubt. So, actually, it was just her. So, she was going to do a duet with Blake Shelton. That was going to be a song that was going to be pushed out earlier this month and promote it with a pre-Super Bowl performance. The song Purple Irises. But Universal Music Group took the step of taking all artist songs off TikTok, and Stefani's song couldn't be released on TikTok and short videos promoting on the app. And her team decided to pivot, and now Shelton's country label, Warner Music, has distributed the song instead of Universal's Interscope Records, and the song has gotten several million views on TikTok as Shelton and Stefani made featuring the tune. So good for them that they have that option to do that. So negotiating in a new world, which a seconds-long clip of a song on TikTok can be just as valuable as a tune in its entirety. And Universal was bringing on what in many industries call the nuclear option, requiring TikTok to take down songs on which any songwriter signed to Universal's publishing division has a credit to take the songs down. And TikTok started doing that late Monday to ensure all tracks are removed by the end of the month. So again, the end of February, done. All these songs get dropped off. The move is going to affect 80% of the current hits across Universal, Warner Music Group, Sony Music Group, and independent labels. And by some estimates, since the top hit can have more than 10 songwriters involved from multiple publishers, even if one songwriter or many on a track is signed to Universal, it will have to come down. It's a lot. TikTok has the largest percentage of videos that contain music by any social media platform. The only one next to it is YouTube, followed by Instagram and Facebook. So TikTok has estimated a lower percentage of popular songs used on TikTok will be silenced, depending on the market, 20 to 30% of them. And TikTok reached out to Universal in recent days with a proposal to make the music company felt didn't meaningfully address its concerns of compensation, platform safety, or artificial intelligence protections, according to people close to the negotiations. Discussions haven't progressed. It's like the writer's strike again. What is going on here? The broader takedowns rope every major music company into the conflict. And see, no one else has dropped into this mix, right? It's only Universal Music that's right now on this fight with TikTok because the other groups got their deals, right? If Universal is able to elicit more favorable economics from TikTok, rivals could press for improvements to their terms the next time they renegotiate. But they already renegotiated. Universal was the one that decided to go ahead and push for a big cut for whatever reason. And you know why? They want to do it because they're not going to make enough money off their other artists. Hey, listen, some of their older legacy artists, soon enough, they're not going to be able to get so much going on there. Listen, especially in pop music, all right? When you have artists like Taylor Swift, Drake, and Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, she's benefiting right now on the fact that she's been able to go and re-record all her music again. So she's just basically just regurgitating on the record that she already has before. Look, a lot of things can happen for Taylor Swift after this tour. Okay. She's in her early 30s. The relationship with Travis Kelce obviously looks like it's going really well, and people are seeing it pretty expansively, right? Look, what's the chance that, hey, she wants to have a child. Maybe that was something that she always wanted to be, was to be a mother in her career. Well, she'll get the chance to do that. And that'll mean she'll take time off. And maybe songwriting and other things and raising a family will be much more important than her being out there, because she's already been on tour. She does the world tour. She finishes up. What does she decide to do? When she takes time off, what is she going to want to do with her life? I could see her possibly. Maybe she wants to go and just settle down with Travis for a while, enjoy the family life, enjoy love, and then eventually, you know what? Maybe a baby comes around, and maybe that's something that she's going to want, because you know what? If she's going to want the baby now, hey man, I bet you that biological clock is ticking, thumping, pounding really hard. And for her to finally find love like she wanted, well, then she probably might just go that route. Who am I to say? But I wouldn't be surprised if we hear news somewhere by after the tour's done, let's say next year, 2025, we might hear about Taylor Swift having a baby. Just saying. Or get married. One of those things. That could very well happen. Just keep that in mind. Now, after years of offering TikTok discounted terms, Universal wants TikTok to start paying royalties in a longer-term deal, the way other established video-centric apps like Meta's Instagram and Google's YouTube do. The feud right now is reverberating across social media and the recording industry, forcing artists to rethink how they release songs and how some TikTok users to change how they engage with the platform. I watch TikTok on a regular basis, at least about a good hour, 2 hours a day. It's not being affected. There's still more than enough content out there on TikTok to entertain people out there in the first place. There just is. We have enough reviewers and content creators and, a bunch of different things going to look forward on there in the first place. TikTok gives us no shortage of content. And by the way, when it comes to music, I still get more than enough music out there to look at. Okay, there's still more than enough in the algorithm that will give me music that I want to go and listen to and find out about. Like I said, for some of the artists we're not hearing about now, okay, I'm going to replace by, I used to get, before this thing, I used to see a lot of, tour videos and clips being put out there that, fans took of Taylor Swift and Sabrina Carpenter out there on tour. Now I see Madison Beer, and I see her concerts over in Europe right now that she's doing, and she's doing a great job out there. She's kicking tail. She's got good music out there. The song Make You Mine, man, that was teased like crazy. And I was like, man, I want to hear that song. And it's been out for a couple of weeks. I'm digging it. It's great. I think anytime she does anything EDM, it's money. It's just money. So good for her. And you know what? Maybe an artist like her or an artist like Charlie XX who has gotten, obviously she's been in there at the top. And sometimes it's been at the help of somebody else being part of the record. But, Charlie XX is hyper pop. There's a thing about with what her music is that maybe doesn't hit such a high note. But on TikTok, I wouldn't be surprised. And I see artists that are like, man, they are just big time happy to see her coming out with this record. Same thing for Tim McRae. She more than happily posts all her stuff out there. And listen, she's doing a great job right now. I hear remixes. I see her content from her performing at the NHL All-Star Game and on television all over the place. Great stuff. Sophie Ellis-Bextor has been doing really well with that because, I see her on Jimmy Fallon performing Murder on the Dance Floor. Great, man. Listen, all this right here. A lot of music out there that is not getting affected by this at all. And in terms of the charts, we're seeing a big difference on there. There's a big difference. Listen, when you look right now, currently on the list, hey, Olivia Rodrigo, I see her out there, but she's not putting any of her music out there. She's out there doing some content, but it's like it's not music. I see her pop up on my feed, and like it's not so much that. And when you look right now, the current list of artists, okay, except for Taylor Swift, who overwhelmingly will always have a big push for herself. Let me just look at these top 10 songs we have right now currently on the list of, top 40 radio right now. Currently, Taylor Swift holds 2 spots. Is It Over Now, which has been being pushed for a while now. They've been pushing it on radio, and Cruel Summer. And then as for Olivia Rodrigo, she has Get 'Em Back. And that's still getting pushed on radio now. Like, I'm surprised. I stopped listening to that or hearing about that back in the summer of last year, I think it was. It's crazy. Sabrina Carpenter's Feather is still getting a push out there, but it's, again, that's affected right now by this Universal Music Group stalemate. with TikTok. Dua Lipa's doing fine with Houdini, and that's the song they're pushing out right now. Doja Cat's album has done okay because radio's, definitely embracing her. Paint the Town Red and Agora Hills continue to be two songs that are being listed on her catalog that are being pushed out on radio. Jack Harlow's Living on Me is still number one in top 40 right now. And Tim McCree's Greedy is number 3. It's like, there's that. And then you look after that, there's not a lot of artists that are, all into this part of what's going on with the music that's out there. I mean, there's really not so much of that. Even Sophia Ellis-Bextor, okay, we might not be seeing a lot of her songs because what she did was she actually did a re-recorded version. And for whatever reason, that got to be pushed out there for people to go and listen to. And then we saw the live performance, which was a chance to go and see her do the song anyway. I've seen it in a couple different ways because she performed live for the BBC Live Lounge and she performed on Jimmy Fallon. So like the live performances and pushing them out to social media are helping her as a result. But it's also something that really affects for the American artists because it's interesting where like Noah Khan has really gotten a push for the help thanks to what's going on in the UK, because I guess they're getting a renaissance of enjoying songs they call country music when there's really just folk music, but whatever. RCA's doing a really good time right now. Like I said, Tate McRae's on their list. They got Doja Cat. They got Justin Timberlake. They're doing all right. And the one thing that's not being said much about is the fact that we also see that independent artists are also hurting about this as well. Now, Universal Music Group has commented about this. And this was recently, we just got this story, so let's go and talk about this. The CEO, chairman, Lucian Grange, he says the social media app is just one piece of the multidisciplinary jigsaw where we promote and market our music globally. So he was on the earnings call for Universal Music Group, talking about their $12 billion earnings call, right? And he's told shareholders, quote, there must not be free rides from massive global platforms such as TikTok that refuse to meaningfully address issues around the AI platform safety or pay their fair share for our artists and our songwriters' work. And Universal Music Group now is going to, according to Boyd Muir, Universal Music Group's CFO and Executive Vice President, he said they would focus on accelerating their partnerships with Meta, Snapchat, YouTube, and more competing social platforms to make more announcements in the coming weeks. So they just want to leave TikTok in the dust by doing this. Amazing. They also go along and say that TikTok promotes paying our artists and songwriters at a rate that is a fraction of the rate that a similarly situated major social platforms pay. And then TikTok would go ahead and reply back and say that, quote, Universal Music Group has put their own greed above the interests of their artists and songwriters. And so they've been at a standstill. And even on Wednesday, after the earnings call, TikTok said that their actions not only affect the songwriters and artists that they represent, but now also impacts many artists and songwriters not signed Universal. We remain committed to reaching an equitable agreement with Universal Music Group. Now, Universal Music Group says that TikTok only makes up about 1% of the company's total revenue. The chief digital officer and executive vice president, Michael Nash, says that it's not necessarily all loss amid the negotiation standoff. Quote, in general, if consumption shifts from TikTok to other short video platforms like Reels or YouTube Shorts, we believe we can, in fact, recapture some lost revenue. Really? So you think people are going to go ahead and start, just because of those particular big, huge artists that you have, you think you have enough artists out there that are going to sway, momentum off of TikTok to go to Reels or YouTube Shorts? Really? When most content creators are creating for TikTok first and Reels and YouTube Shorts are secondary. They're not even the first point. Remember how many times we see videos that might be on Reels or YouTube Shorts that are TikTok videos because you got the watermark on them. What are you talking about? Michael Nash also says they've been providing notices to effectuate the muting of millions of videos every day for the last 2 weeks. And that's the recorded music content. Keep in mind that our publishing copyrights are now just starting to be enforced on the platform. You see no discernible negative impact on the broader digital business by leaving TikTok to date, but that's qualified by the fact that we're very early on the process. We've seen a slight uptick in terms of frontline consumption and catalog consumption over this short period of time. Listen, they're blowing smoke up to the shareholders to say, oh, everything's fine by doing this. Really? And that's the part that they want to really make the point out to try to say, oh, this is what is important to them. Right. And Lucian Grange makes this point to close out the call. He says, listen, I mean, let's put this into perspective. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, all the social categories, the fitness categories, digital radio, Sirius, Pandora, iHeart. Oh. Terrestrial radio is on that list. Terrestrial radio, you're not even considered on the list anymore. You're so neglected. You're so unimportant now. Look at what you've done to yourselves. Just make that point. So the indie artists are now struggling with this TikTok ban. There's developing artists that are distributed through Universal and Virgin Records, relying now on workarounds and measures and tricks to keep using the platform. Another big, huge problem. But who's talking about this? Some of these artists, they probably don't even know the fact that they're probably having their music distributed or somehow pushed out there by others, so they have to figure out a way to go and do this. So in the story from Steve Knopper at Billboard, there's a manager that talks about one of their singers and says that, quote, a lot of us are left at the drawing board, especially when we've gotten an artist over the anxiety of putting themselves out there on TikTok. Now that that's gone, it almost brings you back to square one. And one of the artists they have right now is called Christiane. She's signed to Fader, a label distributed by Universal Music Group's Virgin Music Group. And she's building buzz for upcoming Stray Dog EP, de-emphasizing TikTok and talking to fans on Instagram broadcast channels and other platforms. And they're saying they're using lost dog posters all over New York and other cities. Small things you can do to bring it off TikTok and into the real world. Again, no radio being talked about. BBNOS, a Canadian rapper, he had a 2021 song called Edamame. It got 426 million Spotify plays and was having a moment on TikTok when the Universal Music's ban took effect. The artist had licensed the song to M3's distribution for a 5-year period, and that's the same M3 that Universal Music required in 2022, putting top executives in charge of Virgin. Quote, I'm actually fully independent. It was just this one deal that looped all the songs together, and I got fucked. And now he's considering altering the song with pitch correction and wild sound effects, such as the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants repeating, I'm ready, to avoid detection from digital sweeps. And UMG signed and distributed artists are also turning to the most potent asset on TikTok, fans. One of Christiane's followers recently posted a lip sync video to a concert track declaring, at least UMG can't take away my live audios. And management was saying that no matter what, the fans are going to find a way to share their artist's music and support them. There are ways around it. Shouldn't be this way. This is where Universal Music is completely wrong. It doesn't, again, even if it's not 1%, even if it's a little bit more than that, you understand that promotion, a free promotion like that, and for radio it used to be the same thing. When the promotion was valuable, okay, let's take away the fact of how much you're supposed to be making off the music, okay, the royalties. Fine. Fraction of royalties for fractions of songs heard. Lucian Grange, what about that argument? If a song we're hearing from a clip is 30 seconds to a minute, then why are they paying royalties for the entire song? Or is just as much as other social media platforms? Because those platforms have full songs. Facebook decided to go and put music videos up. YouTube, same thing. And Facebook and Instagram, Meta, probably already have a deal together so that the music can be put on both platforms. So either which way. All right. You're not making any sense. And you want the cash grab because you need to make as much money as you can. And now look, it's because you guys are hurting. Otherwise, why not leave the other people that you have? Why are you doing headcount reduction in the UK and the US? Why else would you be doing that? You want to keep the profits going. So like a big corporate behemoth like you are, this is what you decide to do. This is what you decide to do. This is your way of trying to go and keep your power, swing it around because you think you can, and you're hurting artists in the process. And the fans of those artists are being denied being able to go ahead and engage and talk about some of their favorite artists on TikTok. That's because of you. Universal Music Group, you're wrong about this. I understand you want to make more on royalties. Fine. Then go ahead and get back to radio and get them to spend more. They play full records. YouTube, they play full videos, okay? You want real royalties? Get the royalties from those that actually consume content, full stop, okay? From the places where you can hear full records, full albums, full singles, everything. Yeah, get your proper from the streaming. Get your proper from the people playing the long-form music videos. All right? But the short-form content, you don't need to get full price from them. Take the discount. The other record labels will do that. You're just being greedy. TikTok's right about it. Like, I'm not here to go and defend a company that's based in China, but you know what? TikTok is doing a lot of good for music fans and for music out there. Let's not even forget about how many times there are songs that are being brought back up to the limelight. One of the best things I enjoy about TikTok, because if it's not about me hearing new music or learning about new music to discover, how about music I never even heard before? Because for me, that's one of the parts I really enjoy. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a song on TikTok that somebody, pointed out or used as part of something. And I'm like, wow, I'm all in. There's a young lady right now, beautiful girl on TikTok. Her name is Olivia. And I think that's what her name is on there. If I can find out the name on there, I'll go and tell you what it is real quick. But like, I follow her, and seriously, like, what she puts out there is incredible.
Let's make pizza. I'm gonna
Hold
make
on.
two.
I gotta do something real quick.
I need button mushrooms.
Let me stop this right here. Hold on a second. Okay, following accounts. Let me see if I can find the account that I'm looking for here that'll give me that. Lady Olivia Lane. There we go. That's who it is. Now, let me put it to you like this. So she is a big fan of like vintage clothing, vintage records. So when we're talking about like, music from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, rock and roll music, pop music in general, I see what she does and I'm like, damn, there's like all this music she's introducing. I mean, yeah, of course, the eye candy is special, right? But I'm still saying, when I look at some of the records that she brings up, like some of the album tracks that album cuts, she's picked up on music, and I'm like, if she caught on to it and she's hearing it, like, damn, hold on a second, I need to go find this. It's one thing to go ahead and find music that I never heard of on a movie soundtrack, right? But it's another thing when I'm catching it on social media. And sometimes there are some songs that certain artists will bring out there, and I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't heard this song in a while, and I got to go look it up. Because I'm like, where did you find that from? And I can't tell you how much I've seen of that on a regular basis. A story came out from David Israelite at Variety, who put out a great opinion article saying that the dispute with Universal Music proves songwriters are still on an uneven playing field. Okay, well, let's see what he says about that. All right. Songwriters have always struggled to be treated fairly. Throughout the history of music, those who compose the lyrics and melodies are often treated with less respect than the rights of the more famous recording artists who bring their songs to life. When the sound recordings started to come down, and they're coming down, now they're not already done, Okay, there was little mention of the impact of the removal of Universal Sound recordings and how they would have on the songwriters who wrote those songs and were not part of the Universal Music family. And a month later, Universal Music followed suit with the removal of the songs written by Universal songwriters. And there was a great amount of discussion about what moving the Universal Music songs would mean for recording artists on non-Universal record labels. So TikTok, again, put out a statement saying that these actions not only affect the songwriters and artists they represent, but now also impact many artists and songwriters not signed to Universal. So the op-ed makes the point of the discussion, or lack of discussion, is the clear bias that somehow the rights of the songwriters do not carry equal weight to the rights of well-known recording artists. And it's important to point out that the copyright of the song carries equal weight to the copyright from the sound recording. In the eyes of the law, one is not more valuable or important than the other. Okay, second, the free market also has historically valued the two different interests equally. When a movie, TV show, or commercial wants to use music, there's a free market negotiation with the music publisher who controls the song on the record label, who controls the sound recording. And in those free market negotiations, the value is always equivalent. Aha! If we're only playing portions or fractions of music, then only expect such money from this social media platform or the movie, TV show, or commercial. When it comes to the creative process of making music, songwriting cannot be undervalued. For any recording artists who are upset the songwriters fight to be fairly compensated might keep their recordings off a particular platform. Remember how important these songs are to your success. Songwriters need artists to bring their songs to life, but successful artists need great songs too. Two sides of the creative coin. So my point is, what is being said right here by David Israelite is the equivalency factor, right? The judgment of how much TikTok should be paying is as simple as that, because it's not the full record, it's not the full music. Even the songwriting, it's only partial credit, and that's all it should be. And then I'm going to take for The Verge. They're already saying that they're taking down all the songs written or co-written by artists signed to the Universal Music Group. And we still don't know how many songs are going to be affected. This is according to Variety a couple days ago, as they reported this. So early February, they already started removing songs from Taylor Swift, Drake, and Olivia Rodrigo. And then Universal Music Group claims TikTok tried to bully it into an unfair deal that didn't address the label's concerns about AI-generated music and artist compensation. But the audacity that we could see Universal Music Group just abandon, like leave the table of what they're going to be doing. It's horrible. As TikTok creators struggle without access to songs from their favorite artists, YouTube has attempted to court short-form video markers with a new music video remix feature it launched earlier this month, which is featuring songs from UMG's catalog. Of course, Google's getting in the mix. Why not? Let's see if YouTube can get a little bit of push off of this and see if it's going to get more revenue from YouTube Shorts. You know, yeah, YouTube is one of the most accessible sites in the world, and I've gone through it a billion times, you know, to look for content. What does piss me off is I see a lot of content creators that will just give up on doing content on there. And I'm like, I enjoy some of what I see, but a lot of the content creators I have, they just keep leaving. And I'm like, well, then what happens? It's always about things about music as well, just to make that point. Okay, two other things I want to bring up. One, I did see 3 movies over the weekend, last weekend. This weekend I'm going to watch Dune, and I'm going to catch Demon Slayer. Those movies I'm going to catch back-to-back this weekend. And then last week, I actually came home after watching Poor Things, which I talked about here on the program. And then I watched those on Thursday night. And then Friday night, I caught Bob Marley One Love, which was mid. They did so much to that movie that didn't really do much for me. Like, there was a lot more to the story they could tell. Like, for a documentary compared to what I've seen of others. I mean, the people that were happy about the movie are just like Bob Marley heads. Like, they're just fans. We're like Grateful Dead fans. It's just like, it just doesn't matter. Bob Marley can do no wrong. Or anything about Bob Marley, just people can just say about it. Whatever. Drive Away Dolls I also saw. I call it Lesbian Fargo. It could have been better. I mean, listen, I get what they're trying to do. Like, it's funny, like the raunchy humor. They want women to go with the raunchy humor, which is fine, I guess. Look at Bridesmaids was a very funny movie, okay? And if you wanted to do it again, I'd probably go watch that as well. But this right here, you know, I wasn't bored by it. It's a Ethan Coen movie, so I mean, I'll give it that. But yeah, Joel and Ethan Coen not working together, something's wrong here. It's very different to see where they're separate. And decided to go with the route that he said here. And no Coen brothers and just one Coen brother, it did feel like it was a half-baked script. Again, we're talking about the guys that did Raising Arizona, No Country for Old Men, Big Lebowski. Come on, right? Fargo, all this. So Driving Away Dolls, road tripping platonic lesbian pals, Margaret Qualley, Geraldine Viswanathan, and they do the movie, you know, set at the turn of the millennium. Okay. And listen, I was fine with the fact that they decided to go ahead and have this whole deal of like, let's just do something a little bit, you know, out there. Like, it still gives me that kind of the quirkiness, which I'm expecting in a Coen Brothers film. That's fine. I just didn't think it was that funny. I think some of the jokes they tried to put out there, they weren't for me, and it didn't hit really good. Let me put it like this. So there were, maybe 10 people in my movie theater? Mostly women. I saw a couple guys going with the girlfriends in there. I remember there were 2 young girls who were sitting, you know, same row as me, and they dozed off. I don't think they stayed. They dozed off during the movie because I remember went away about halfway through to go grab me a refill of a Coke Zero because I get the refill cup from Regal and 32 ounces is not enough. Let's just say it like that. So I go back and still the same thing goes where it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, they're sleeping and then there's nobody laughing. If there's supposed to be a laugh in this movie, there wasn't. Some of the other characters they had on there, interesting, okay, whatever. The story was fine. They gave us a story. They gave us the whole thing. I think the one girl that was the cop, and I forget her name, who was the jilted ex-girlfriend, she was pretty funny. I'll give her that. The 2 henchmen for Coleman Domingo's character, they were interesting, but like again, it's like trying to do Fargo again. It doesn't work. Fargo, the TV show or the movie, either one, just didn't work for me. So at the moment, they said that the movie was actually originally called Drive Away Dykes and was written back in the early 2000s, and Selma Blair was still the star in the movie. But they make the point that Drive Away Dolls arrived several months after its initial planned release date, and it was put into what's called Drumpuary, the stretch post-year, New Year's, pre-Oscars is most commonly reserved for low-budget genre fare, one-shot oddities, and implied big-ticket duds. And last year, America was wincing at Magic Mike's Last Dance, falling in love with Cocaine Bear, and a new feature. In this context, a new feature signed by a multiple Oscar-winning auteur seems a little bit out of place, especially when contrasted with the lavish Christmas 2021 rollout for Joel Coen's Apple-backed tragedy Macbeth. That film was pre-sold as a masterpiece and a late career showcase for Denzel Washington. Drive Away Dolls, meanwhile, has been positioned as a throwaway. And when I think of the movies I've actually seen this year so far, in Drumpuary, because right now we're in March, Dune's going to finally just like change the whole feel to it. Oh, look at this. I go to the Regal website. They have changed the whole look of it. Wow. That's cool. Let me go and see what they did. They redesigned the whole website. I wanted to see what movies I've already seen so far, just to give you the idea of what I've done here so far, and just to get the whole feel of it. So let me give you the listing of movies I've already seen this year. Since the start of the year. Because I've really gone, and I've definitely not, I've gone out of my way to watch movies this year and do a lot. So, start of the year, first was Beekeeper, then Cult Killer, then Miller's Girl, then Argyle and RPX, then Fighter, the Hindi movie, the Bollywood movie, American Fiction, Bob Marley One Love, Madam Web, Land of Bad, Poor Things, Bob Marley, One Love, and Drive Away Dolls. So here's what I got so far. Put it like this. Of the movies I've seen this year, if I had to give grades so far, Beekeeper is a B. Cold Killer, D. Miller's Girl, a B. Argyle, D. Fighter, a B. American Fiction, A. Bob Marley, One Love, a C. Madam Web is a D. Land of Bad is a B. Poor Things, it gets an A from me. Weird, twisted movie, but it was good. Bob Marley, One Love, a C. Drive Away Dolls, a D. That's it. No. But it's not any movie that I would go ahead and walk away from. Like, I mean, listen, the last movie I went and saw that I had walked out of, under subscription, by the way, was Lost City. The one with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. I could not watch that movie. I had to walk out. But all these other movies? No, not at all. No, I'm fine with it. And, you know, at least we're now through that part, and now some other movies are probably coming out. So I'm looking forward to seeing all that. So again, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. I'll watch that coming up this weekend. And Dune Part 2. That's all expected to go and come out. And a lot more movies left to go and get into that we'll start catching. So let me see. I don't know what else there is that I'm going to watch because, like, okay. Oh boy, Cabrini is out. Oh boy. Cabrini. I don't know if this is any good. I'll see if it is. I'm not sure what the movie's about. I'm not going to watch Imaginary. I'm not going to watch Kung Fu Panda 4. Oh no, pass. No, maybe I'll watch Cabrini. I don't know. Interesting. It's wide release. I don't know yet. I don't know much about this movie, so I have to learn more about all this. March 15th, Arthur the King. I'm not into that so much. Thank you, Mark Wahlberg, but no, it's okay. It's going to be interesting to see what there is that I might catch the next couple of weeks because we're still going to be like kind of struggling of movies, and I might have to go catch some. I might have to catch some Bollywood movies instead coming up. That's probably what I have to go with. Because after Dune, I have to wait for Ghostbusters to be the next movie I'm going to probably catch for sure. And Atlanta Saints and Sinners, yes, I'm going to absolutely watch that. I will be there for that with bells on. Monkey Man, April 5th. I'm all over that movie. That looks great. Civil War, I'm going to be all over that too. I'm going to watch that. Are you kidding me? They really remade Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. They did it again? No. Nicole Richie is starring in it? What? Oh my God. Oh, this is crazy. Let's see. April 19th. A lot of movies come out. Abigail. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That's a Guy Ritchie movie. I'm going to watch that. Villains Inc. I think I've heard about that. Challengers with Diaz coming up April 26th. So that's the start of the fall. That's the taste of it. Fall Guy May 3rd. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is May 10th. Tarot's May 10th. Mike Trent's Weddings May 10th. Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse feature. That's Winehouse feature documentary or biopic is May 17th. Among others, Furiosa is May 24th. There's a lot there. But any which way. I'll be there with my popcorn. I'll be there with my Coke Zero. All over it. Soon enough. No doubt about it. Last story I got for you. So, Sean Ross over at RadioInsight.com. Another great story that just caught my attention. A major Canadian radio owner selling stations to smaller groups. What now? I'm going to be keeping my eye on this. This is something I'd love to see right now. Its first paragraph grabs my attention. It gives me hope. It is a scenario that has sustained some broadcasters for years. What if over-leveraged major radio groups ended up selling off stations to smaller operators? It will be a wonderful day, Sean. It will be a wonderful day. Would that not transfer control from Wall Street back to committed local broadcasters? Could it turn the clock back on radio's post-1996 consolidation? In the U.S., that scenario has largely failed to materialize. Stations earmarked for sale due to market caps languish for years in trusts. Religious broadcasters, usually with national franchises, have been the ones most able to expand. And there was a sale of Newhoff Media in Lafayette, Indiana, to Saga, is a transfer from a smaller group to a well-respected medium-sized one, but it's not repatriation from a major owner. But Canada is a different story. February 8th, Bell Media announced they were selling 45 of their 103 radio stations to 7 smaller groups. Vista Radio, Maritime Broadcasting, Durham Radio, My Broadcasting, Arsenal Broadcasting, White Oaks Communications, and Zoomer Media. Now, they said that the Bell divestiture is not exactly a feel-good story. After a new job cuts across Bell and parent company BCE, many of them at local TV network properties, it was also accompanied by a statement declaring radio was not a viable business anymore and that radio is headed in the wrong direction. So the group has already turned off or sold a number of heritage AM stations. For any owner, recapturing the spirit of 95 will be challenging on either side of the border. Smaller groups still grapple with the contraction of the radio business and the fragmentation of the audience. But I can tell you stations right now that have gotten local ownership, and they are making some moves. West Palm Beach, for example. I mean, I see the changes that are being made here. You know, Dick Robinson, he's the owner of what's been called the Connecticut Schools of Broadcasting. And that guy has been doing really well with Legends Radio, Legends 100.3 here in this market, playing the Great American Songbook. He is rocking and rolling right now. The former Vic Latino, okay? He has been doing a lot right now with the VCMG group, having, oldies being played across the board on several subcarriers to get himself out there and get some money that's going on right now for the advertising on that. We do have the new station now, the Flame 104.7 here in this market. It was bought off a smaller station. And when the station was able to move from a small, 10,000 watt signal in Fort Pierce, now to 50,000 watts just outside of West Palm Beach. Yeah. They're now going up head to head with the number one station in the market, WMBX X102.3, owned by Hubbard Media. So that's an interesting story to go and see right there. And a little now competition going on. So that's one of the things that really pays my attention. Unfortunately, yes, it sucks that Bell Media and BCE is going to go ahead and let all those people go. But I'll tell you what, I'd love to see more of this. So they talk about readers to Radio Insight that hope smaller ownership will help restore greater localism. Quote, be micro-local with personality if everyone else is pulling in VTs from out of market, says a veteran GM&P program director, Sharon Taylor. Quote, I would budget things to try to have a 24/7 live air staff on at least one, if not all my stations in my cluster. That's going to Scott Evans Littleton. Quote, I would want storytellers on the air, says Sam Adico with Wheeling, West Virginia's River Radio, whose classic hit station revived the heritage WOMP FM name, WOMP FM, and staged a one-book market takeover before withdrawing from the Nielsen ratings. One suggestion posted in this column before is the concept of small regional networks with 1 to 2 live personalities from each of the several markets. I've also suggested that each market have 2 to 3 truly local stations, allowing larger groups to create true national brands rather than in between stations that are neither big nor satisfyingly local. Smaller groups are natural for that approach. Well, I also said not that long ago, you could just do what BBC Radio does, or what the other national radio groups do, in other countries. I mean, if I want to just go back to that idea, you could do something like that. Maybe you could create the whole idea of creating radio that is across that board. Let me tell you, one of the stations that was trying to do that was Odyssey. And this goes back to a story I remember I talked about in July 2021, the nationalization of hit radio. Because Odyssey, back at this time, again, almost 3 years ago, they decided to go ahead and start implementing CHR programming. So here's a story they had brought up before, just to make this point. They had the lineups all set up, okay? And they were taking some of their big hit music stations that are going to be carrying this music. They're going to be carrying these stations. So first of all, they were going to do it also where they were going to have these 16 mainstream CHR stations changing their online lineups. And they had a couple of stars that would be in, Julia in the middays and Brew in the afternoons. Okay. So they made those changes. And two of the stations they did it to, particularly that I wanted to pay attention to were actually there's 3 stations, I'll say. Actually 4. We'll make it 4. B96, WBBM Chicago. They put on Julia for afternoons and Brew at night. Then KLUC Las Vegas. They decided to go ahead and put on Julia in the middays there. And Brew was put on in the afternoons. KNOW Los Angeles 97.1 now. Julia and Brew already had middays and afternoons respectively. And they already held them over there. And Power 96 in Miami, WPOW, they decided, okay, well, Julia would be heard at middays and Brew would be on at night. Now let's just talk about what they've changed on all these stations so far. Did they keep those changes since? That's a good question. So Miami now has, in Power 96, they call it now Miami's pop music. And let me tell you like this. At the moment, they now have Joanna Gomez running middays. Brew is now on 8 to 11. So the thought they were going to have of, having the Odyssey folks doing it, nope, they passed. Let's talk about B96 in Chicago. That's another station that came out and decided to go their route. Let's see what they did if they decided to change it. The music you always love, they call it. So over this one end, right, Brew's the only one that's left. Brew is the only one that's left at all in the lineup over here anyways. If I take KNOU, right? Is that the one they had on here? Well, hold on a second. I'll tell you right now. KNOU 97.1. Oh, it's not even Odyssey, right? And I'm looking right now. Oh, I think they changed, right? Yeah, they changed. Like it didn't even last. They made the change to 97.1 now, and then they moved it to start rebroadcasting the news radio station, KNX. So that didn't last. But it's like, okay, they tried the nationalization and it failed. Miserably, by the way. Just saying like that. KLUC, let me give you one more station. So this is Las Vegas's pop #1 hit music station. And on their station, so I'm a Chet Buchanan in the Morning Zoo, Julia's still on there in afternoons and Brew's on in afternoons. Oh, no, excuse me. Julia's on middays and Brew's still on afternoons. But, the plan did not work. Obviously, changes were made, and that's all there was to it. And that's the show for tonight. Thank you for listening in and finding the show, kingofpodcasts.com, where you find all my content. I'm all over the place. All the programming available, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Music. Make sure you're going to find all the programming there. And more importantly, please do go ahead and follow me on the social media. You can find all my social media links right there underneath all the 4 shows that I do every week. Except for Podcasters Row. I got to get more guests. That's the only thing that's holding me back right there. So yeah, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all those right there. And the YouTube channel at King of Podcasts. So until next week, remember that content is king and the control of your content is in your hands.